Glass explodes across asphalt like a deadly confetti. Metal screams against metal. The world tilts sideways as brake lights paint everything red through the smoke. Inside the number 47 bus, 23 passengers pressed their faces to fogged windows, trapped spectators to disaster. Cars crushed together like broken toys. A motorcycle toppled, wheels still spinning. A scream somewhere outside cuts through the night. Then silence. Too much silence. Mr. Collins, the driver, fumbles with his radio. His knuckles are white. Dispatch, we've got a major pileup on Route 9. Multiple vehicles, I see. His voice cracks. I see blood. From the third row, a young man lurches into the aisle, blood streaking down to his temples. His words are faint, slurred. Help! I think I'm hurt. No one moves. A mother shields her daughter. An elderly man shakes as he dials his phone. A businessman pulls at his tie like he's suffocating. Then, quiet footsteps. From the back of the bus, a figure rises. She's in faded blue scrubs, earbuds hanging loose, a hospital name tag catching the dim light. She should be on her way home. She should be done. Mr. Collins looks up, desperation in his voice. Ambulances are coming, but traffic's jammed solid. Could be an hour before they get through. Outside, sirens wail faintly, muffled behind miles of frozen cars. A child cries somewhere in the wreckage. The smell of gasoline hangs heavy. The figure moves forward, steady despite the chaos. She takes a breath, rolls up her sleeves. This wasn't her shift, but tonight, survival depended on her hands. What defines a hero? The choice to act or the strength to endure? Comment your thoughts and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. 6 hours earlier, Julia Silva had been laughing with her colleague Tara in the break room of St. Mary's Hospital. They sat slouched in plastic chairs, leftover pizza balanced on paper plates, posture sacrificed to exhaustion. 12 hours, Tara groaned, massaging her temples. 12 hours of IV drips and bedpans, and Mr. Wallace begging me to fluff his pillow every 5 minutes. Julia peeled a slice of pepperoni from her pizza, shaking her head. At least he's polite. Room 312 threw a juice box at me because I wouldn't let him have his phone during the MRI. Why do we do this job again? Julia smirked. Because someone has to, and because we were too stubborn to quit. They both laughed, the kind of laughter that was equal parts relief and fatigue. Julia checked the time, sighed, and shoved the rest of her pizza into her mouth. Boss leaves in 10 minutes. Quiet ride home. Hot shower, sleep. That's the plan. Tara raised an eyebrow. Famous last words. Julia rolled her eyes, but the phrase stuck in her head longer than it should have. She always chose the third row, window seat, earbuds in, music low. The engine's hum replaced hospital beeps, antiseptic clinging to her scrubs, mingling with vinyl and stale air. The bus was her decompression chamber, her buffer between chaos and silence. Her phone buzzed as the bus pulled away from the medical center. A text from her mom. Saw the news about the hospital expansion. Proud of you, my love. Get some rest. Julia smiled faintly, tucking the phone away. Her mom still thought nursing was just a job. Julia knew better. It was something that followed you everywhere, even when you swore you'd left it behind. The city blurred past in streaks of neon and headlights. She leaned her temple against the cool glass, earbuds humming softly. 20 minutes. That was all she needed. Then, The bus jolted, tires shrieking. Julia's eyes flew open. Somewhere up ahead, metal screamed against metal. Outside, the world had shattered into a jigsaw puzzle of destruction. 5 cars and a motorcycle twisted together in ways that defied logic. Steam hissed from ruptured hoods. A red SUV sat belly up, wheels still spinning lazily in the evening air as if refusing to accept gravity had won. Julia pressed her forehead to the window, her medical training taking over before she could even process the shock. Her eyes scanned, cataloging injuries like a grim checklist. Woman on the curb, arm cradled awkwardly against her chest, elbow bent in a direction no joint should bend. Man staggering in circles, blood soaking the collar of his shirt, confusion written across his face, and worst of all, a motionless figure beside an overturned sedan. Her chest tightened, motionless. Mr. Collins' voice broke through, sharp with panic as he spoke into his radio. Multiple injuries looks bad. Yeah, at least 6 people down. No, we can't move forward. Debris everywhere. Behind them, a chorus of car horns blared. Drivers trapped in gridlock had no idea they were leaning on their horns at the edge of a nightmare. The wreckage stretched across all 4 lanes, a steel barricade of suffering. They weren't going anywhere. Julia rose before she had fully decided to. The fatigue of her 12-hour shift vanished like steam off pavement. Someone has to move. Someone has to. Mr. Collins, she said firmly, open the door. Lady, I don't think... I'm a nurse. Her voice got sharper than she intended. She was already edging past the bleeding passenger in the aisle. Those people need help now. Collins hesitated, eyes flicking from her to the wreckage. Far off sirens wailed, faint and trapped behind miles of frozen traffic. He swallowed, then pressed the release. The door hissed open. The smell slammed into her, gasoline sharp as ammonia, hot meal, burning rubber, and underneath it, the unmistakable iron stench of blood. It clung to the back of her throat. Julia stepped onto the asphalt with nothing but a pen and her phone in her pocket. Her medical bag was still back at the hospital. No gloves, no stethoscope, nothing. For one terrifying second, she almost froze. What could she possibly do here, empty-handed, surrounded by chaos? Then, the boy on the ground flashed in her mind again. Blue lips, shallow gasps. No time to hesitate. She moved. The first victim was the woman with the broken arm. Julia dropped to her knees. Hi, I'm Julia. I'm a nurse. What's your name? Lisa, the woman panted. My arm, God, it's broken. Julia palpated gently, noting the swelling and obvious fracture. Closed, no bone protruding. Painful, but not immediately life-threatening. Lisa, you're going to be okay. Stay still. Don't move that arm. Lisa nodded through clenched teeth. Julia forced herself up, scanning for the next patient. The bleeding man stumbling in circles caught her attention. His gait was unsteady, his eyes glassy. She intercepted him, placing steady hands on his shoulders. Sir, sit here. Sit, please. She guided him to a guardrail. What's your name? Thomas. Thomas Romano. Did I hit someone? Can't remember. His words slurred, disoriented. Head wound, Julia muttered. Bad, but survivable, if it didn't deteriorate. She pressed his hands against the gash. Keep pressure on this, don't move. but her gaze had already drifted back to the motionless body by the sedan. A boy, maybe 17, unconscious, pale, her chest clenched. She crouched beside him, and the sound of his breathing stopped her cold. Shallow, frantic, each gasp like his body was fighting itself. His lips were already turning a dusky blue, airway obstruction. "Hey!" Julia shouted back towards the bus. "I need help out here!" Mr. Collins appeared, hesitant at the doorway. Behind him, passengers wavered between safety and fear. "You!" Julia barked, pointing at the man in a suit. "Stay with Lisa. Keep her talking." "Ma'am?" She gestured to an older woman. "You stay with Thomas. Keep him awake. And you?" Her eyes landed on a middle-aged man in a flannel. "With me." Something in her tone cut through panic. They obeyed. Julia tilted the boy's head, checking his airway. Nothing. His chest spasmed, breath ragged and failing. "What's your name?" she asked the man in flannel. "Mike." "Mike, go back to the bus. I need cloths, shirts, and anything to stop bleeding. A first aid kit, if anyone has one. Hurry." Mike sprinted off, and Julia's eyes swept the scene again. The wreck was worse than she thought. A woman still trapped in the upside-down SUV, her lips moving soundlessly behind shattered glass. An elderly man slumped against a tree, chest heaving, one hand pressed tight against his sternum. A mother rocking a crying child, her own face slick with blood. And still, no ambulances in sight. Sirens screamed in the distance but weren't getting closer. Mom's text flashes in her head. "Proud of you, my love. You're making a difference." Julia's throat tightened. "God, Mom, you have no idea." She turned back to the boy. His breaths were now just faint whistles. His pulse fluttered weakly under her fingers. Minutes left, maybe less. Mike returned, arms full. Bandages from a kit, a water bottle, torn jackets, tissues. Julia rifled through the kit with trembling hands. Antiseptic wipes, gauze, a small scalpel, and then a clear plastic tubing, probably for wound irrigation, narrow, no wider than a straw. She froze, staring at it. She'd done this procedure once in training, in a sterile hospital with a team of doctors watching. Never on asphalt, never with improvised tools, never where everything depended on her alone. Her stomach twisted. One mistake and she could kill him, but without it, he was already dying. "Mike," she whispered, voice steadier than she felt. "Hold his head still." He nodded, hands firm against the boy's temples. Julia's training took over. Palpate, locate, steady hands. She blocked out the horns, the sirens, the voices around her. She was back in the hospital, back in control. This is why you studied until your eyes burned. Why you show up, shift after shift. Why you can't walk away. "Stay with me," she whispered to the boy. "Just stay with me." Her fingers hovered with the tubing, breath caught. Then, a voice behind her shattered the fragile bubble. "Over here!" a passenger screamed. "There's another one. She's not breathing." Julia's head jerked up, heart pounding. Two patients are in respiratory crisis. One set of hands, no equipment, and sirens are still nowhere near. The boy's lips were nearly purple. The woman on the other side could already be gone. Julia looked from the boy beneath her hands to the chaos beyond. Her choice would mean life or death, and she had to make it now. The teenager's name was Marcus. Julia discovered it when his fingers brushed against the wallet in his back pocket while checking for injuries. 16, Roosevelt High, a donor. The license photo showed a wide grin framed by braces, the kind of smile that looked like it belonged to a boy still unbroken by the world. Now, that same boy's lips were turning blue. Julia pressed her fingers against the side of his throat, pulse steady, fading. His chest barely moved. She had seconds, not minutes. "Mike," she said, her voice steady though his stomach was knotted tight. "Hold his head exactly where I put it, no matter what." Mike nodded, knuckles white against the asphalt. Around them, voices called out. Cries for help, the shuffle of footsteps crunching glass, the unanswered echo of sirens still far away. Julia closed her eyes for half a breath. She wasn't an ear surgeon. She was a pediatric nurse. In her world, children arrived in clean beds with oxygen masks and full teams of specialists. Here, she had asphalt, adrenaline, and a piece of flimsy plastic tubing pulled from a battered first aid kit. The thought hit like a blow. What if I make it worse? What if the tubing collapsed? What if she tore his trachea? What if trying to save him meant killing him? Her eyes opened to Marcus's face, lips blue, nails blue, chest still. He had less than a minute. And then, unbidden, she heard her mentor's voice, Dr. Alvarez, during her first ICU rotation, standing over a child who'd coded at 2 in the morning. "Silva, when it's you or no one, you act. You don't get the luxury of doubt." Her hands steadied. She positioned the tubing, borrowed the flashlight from a stranger's keychain, and marked the spot with her fingers. The term echoed in her head. Cricothyrotomy. She'd practiced it on mannequins, seen it done in controlled chaos, but never like this. "Hold him steady, Mike," she said. The scalpel sliced, a quick cut. Her fingers found the gap between cartilage rings. She slid the tubing in, expecting resistance. Instead, it went more easily than her fear allowed. For a heartbeat, there was nothing. Marcus lay motionless, lips purple, skin pale. Julia's pulse roared in her ears. Then, a sound. A sharp rattling whoosh as air rushed through. His chest rose, fell, rose again. Color bled back into his lips, faint but undeniable. Mike let out a sound between a sob and a laugh. "Holy shit, you did it!" Julia didn't answer. Her focus tunneled. She secured the airway with tape, checked the pulse again, stronger now. Marcus was alive, at least for this moment. Behind them, a passenger whispered, almost reverently, "She saved him." The words rippled through the crowd, but Julia barely heard. Her attention snapped to the faint sound drifting from somewhere nearby, a muffled, broken plea. "Help, please." Julia looked up, 30 feet away. An SUV lay on its roof, windows shattered, frames twisted. Through the broken glass, she saw a woman suspended upside down, held only by her seatbelt. Blood ran down her forehead into her hairline. Julia rose, knees stiff from the pavement, and crossed quickly. The closer she got, the clearer it became. Shallow breathing, voice weak, face pale. "Hi, I'm Julia," she said, kneeling by the jagged frame. "What's your name?" "Patricia. Patricia Sandoval. I can't feel my legs." Julia's gaze swept over her. Shallow breaths, possible spinal injury, definite internal bleeding. No way to extract her without equipment. Behind her, Mr. Collins shouted, "The sirens are closer. 10 minutes, maybe less." 10 minutes. Too long. Patricia's breaths were already ragged. Julia reached through the broken glass, resting a hand gently against Patricia's shoulder. Stay very still for me, Patricia. Help is on the way. She glanced back. Mike sat with Marcus, talking softly about his hardware store job as if normal words could anchor him to life. Marcus's chest kept rising, falling, for now he was stable. Around them, more cries pierced the night. Every direction, every voice asking the same question without words. Who will save me? Julia swallowed hard, forcing her breath steady. She had no monitors, no backup, no clean rooms. But she had her training, her hands, and the next person in front of her. And sometimes that had to be enough. 23 minutes had passed since the crash, though it felt like hours. What had begun as chaos was now something close to organized disaster response, the kind of makeshift order only desperation can build. Marcus was breathing again, the tubing rattling faintly as color returned to his face. Mike stayed close, one hand near his shoulder, filling the silence with baseball stats to keep them both steady. Patricia, still trapped in the SUV, had a jacket wedged behind her head to keep her neck stable. Her voice had weakened, but Julia had felt her legs respond to touch. Temporary paralysis, she hoped. If they could just keep her calm and still. But what stunned Julia most wasn't the injuries or the blood. It was the community blooming around her in the wreckage. Thomas, the man with the head wound, sat shoulder to shoulder with Lisa and her broken arm, both of them keeping company with the elderly man who'd been clutching his chest. The businessman in the suit was directing cars around the wreck with an authority of a traffic cop, sweat soaking through his shirt. A teenage girl had become their dispatcher, phone clutched to her ear, shouting updates about the ambulance's progress. From trunks and glove compartments came water bottles, sweatshirts, and even a box of juice pouches someone had stashed for their kids. Strangers were giving everything they had, and for a moment Julia thought, this is what the world should always look like. Julia, Mike's voice broke her reverie. He's moving. She sprinted back. Marcus's eyes were open, tracking her, wide with fear. He couldn't talk with the tubing, but his gaze was sharp, demanding answers. She crouched low, her hands steady as she checked the airway. Secure, pulse strong. Hey Marcus, I'm Julia. I'm a nurse. You're safe, okay? You had trouble breathing, but I fixed that. The doctors will take care of you soon. His eyes softened. She caught the faintest crease at their corners, almost a smile. Relief washed through her. Then, a voice tore across the scene. She's in labor. Julia spun. The other nurse, Carmen, was waving frantically from a near gray Honda. You've got to be kidding me, Julia muttered, already running. Inside the Honda, a young woman clutched the steering wheel, her face contorted with pain. Her husband sat helplessly beside her, pale as the glass scattered on the asphalt. I'm Julia, I'm a nurse, she said, sliding into view. What's your name? Amanda, the woman gasped. The baby, it's early, it's coming now. First baby? Julia asked. Her voice calm though her pulse surged. Amanda nodded, tears streaking through grime. Another contraction hit. Amanda screamed, her back arching, and Julia's hands shot forward to steady her. Behind her, she heard Marcus gag. Mike shouting her name. Julia whipped her head around. Marcus was coughing, the tubing shifting dangerously. For one terrifying second, she had to choose. Mike, hold it steady, don't let go, she barked, trusting him more than she trusted herself. Then she turned back to Amanda, who was panting hard, clutching Julia's wrist like a lifeline. You're okay, Both of you are okay. We're doing this together. The husband fumbled with his phone. Ambulances, 3 minutes out, he stammered. 3 minutes. Then we need 3 minutes of courage, Julia said firmly, laying a blanket beneath Amanda with the help of two bystanders. Contractions, how far apart? The husband blinked, panicked. 2 minutes, maybe less. Julia's stomach clenched. That baby wasn't waiting. Across the road, Patricia screamed from the SUV. Patricia screamed from the SUV, a ragged, panicked cry. I can't breathe. Julia's head snapped towards her. Dust was choking her lungs as she shifted inside the wreck. Carmen was already climbing halfway into the shared flame, holding Patricia's hands, calling her name. Stay with Amanda, Carmen yelled across the noise. I've got her. The words cut through Julia's paralysis. She turned back, her focus narrowing to Amanda's terrified eyes. Listen to me, Amanda. You're stronger than you think. On your next contraction, you're going to push. Amanda sobbed. I can't. Yes, you can, Julia said, gripping her hand. Your baby is ready, and so are you. The next contraction tore through Amanda, her cry muffled by Julia's steady voice. Breathe, push, that's it, you're doing it. A shadow fell across them. The businessman, jacket tied around his waist. What do you need? Towels, anything clean. He sprinted, barking orders like a general, and within seconds, someone brought a stack of shirts and another hand over a bottled water. Julia nodded, her impromptu surgical team ready. Amanda bore down, her husband whispering frantic encouragements, his hands trembling against her shoulder. Julia checked progress quickly, crowning, already. Okay, Amanda, one more. You can do this. A contraction surged. Amanda screamed, pushing with everything she had. And suddenly, Julia was holding a slippery, impossibly small newborn in her hands. For a heartbeat, the world froze. Then the baby cried, a thin, piercing wail that silenced the chaos like a hymn. The crowd exhaled as one. Amanda collapsed back, sobbing, her husband's face crumpling in awe. Julia wrapped the baby in someone else's sweatshirt, placing the tiny bundle on Amanda's chest. You did it, Julia whispered, her throat thick. You both did. But before relief could root itself, Marcus coughed again, this time violently. Mike shouted, It's coming loose. Julia spun, her blood running cold. The tubing jutted awkwardly, slipping with every rugged breath. Marcus's lips darkened, his chest hitching. The distant sirens were louder now, so close she could almost see the flashing lights, but they weren't here yet. Julia dropped the bloody scissors beside her and lunged back to Marcus, shouting over her shoulder, Carmen, don't let Amanda move. I need 5 more seconds. She pressed her palms around the tube, trying to guide it steadily. Marcus's eyes rolled, panic flooding them, his pulse flickering like a weak signal under her fingers. Stay with me, Marcus, stay. And then, hands were suddenly on her shoulders. A paramedic's voice cut through the chaos. We've got him. Red and blue lights strobed across the wreckage as 4 ambulances fanned into cavalry. Professionals swarmed, sliding Julia aside as oxygen masks and gear replaced her improvised tools. Julia stumbled back, breath ragged, watching as Marcus's chest hitched under real equipment at last. Relief crashed over her like a wave, because she hadn't lost him yet. For a moment, she stood frozen. What must this scene look like to them? Marcus is stable in a blanket with a bent tube airway. Patricia is still trapped but conscious. Vital signs monitored by Thomas despite his concussion. Amanda lay on her side, clutching the newborn to her chest as strangers fanned her with jackets. Everywhere, people are helping, directing traffic, holding IV bags, keeping frightened children calm. Who's in charge here? A paramedic called. Julia turned. A woman with graying hair and sharp, kind eyes strode towards her. Her name tag read, Captain Miller. Julia raised a hand. Julia Silva, nurse, St. Mary's Pediatrics. Miller scanned the scene. Casualties? 11. Marcus had a full airway obstruction. I improvised a cricothyrotomy. Patricia's got possible spinal trauma. Amanda just delivered a baby girl. 7 pounds. Strong cry, stable. Miller stopped cold. You delivered a baby out here? 10 minutes ago. Healthy, beautiful. The captain's gaze swept over the makeshift field hospital. The empty first aid kits, plastic water bottles, shirts tied into bandages. Miller exhaled, almost a laugh. In 20 years, I've never seen anything like this. You probably saved 3 lives tonight. Julia shook her head. Not just me. Mike watched Marcus like a hawk. Thomas kept Patricia awake despite his own injury. Carmen, another nurse, ran half the scene. Everyone helped. Miller studied her for a long moment, then gestured at the organized chaos around them. Maybe, but you gave them a leader. One by one, patients were loaded into ambulances. Amanda and her newborn disappeared into the night, bound for St. Mary's. Patricia waved weakly from a stretcher as paramedics cut her free, and Marcus, still gripping Mike's hand, was wheeled past with a faint smile in his eyes. As the last siren faded, the road seemed strangely quiet. Tow trucks moved in. Families hugged goodbye. The crisis dissolved back into ordinary life. Julia leaned against the bus, exhaustion crashing over her like a wave. Mr. Collins, the driver, approached slowly. His voice carried equal parts awe and gratitude. Miss Silva, how did you know what to do? She thought of all the words she could use. Training, instinct, sheer necessity. But only one answer felt true. I'm a nurse, she said simply. It's what we do. 3 days later, Julia was back on her number 47 bus. Same seat, same route, heading home from another 12-hour shift. Her phone buzzed with interview requests she ignored. She hadn't done it for recognition, but the bus was different now. Taped along the windows were thank you cards, crayon drawings of superheroes and scrubs, a photo of Amanda's baby girl with a note. Thank you for bringing her safely into the world. Patricia's message stood out most. To the nurse who turned the highway into a hospital, thank you for proving heroes don't always wear capes. Julia's throat tightened. She pressed a hand to one card. The paper warmed from the sun through the window. Around her, the passengers felt different too. The construction workers flipping through a paramedic textbook. The elderly woman is knitting baby blankets for the children's ward. The teenager is typing furiously, planning a food drive. Everyone, she realized, carried something unseen. Everyone had the capacity to step forward when life demanded it. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a text from her mom. Saw you in the news, my love. Our hero nurse. Julia smiled faintly as she typed back. Not a hero, Mom. Just a nurse who couldn't clock out. The city blurred past outside, lights soft against the glass, and in the reflection, she saw her fellow passengers' faces ordinary. yet holding stories of quiet courage. She closed her eyes, leaning back into the hum of the bus. Healing, she thought, doesn't live inside four hospital walls. It lives in the people, in moments of choice, in the hands that reached out instead of turning away. Her chest eased, exhaustion finally giving way to peace. Everyday heroes are all around us,